This is the ECOFLOW WAVE 3 portable air conditioner. I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it, because I have been using it for about a week in real situations, not just for a quick test. The reason I even cared about something like this is simple. I spend time in a van, I work in a small home office, and I sometimes hang out outside where a normal window air conditioner is not an option. I wanted one box I could move around that could cool when it is hot, heat when it is cold, and help with damp air when things get muggy. What makes this unit interesting to me is that it is actually built around the idea of moving it. It does not feel like a regular portable air conditioner that you reluctantly drag across the floor once and then never touch again. It looks modern and kind of understated, with a gray finish and a big handle that feels like it is meant to be grabbed a lot. After a week of pulling it in and out of my van and shifting it between rooms, the build has held up fine. Nothing feels loose, the plastic does not feel thin, and the handle has not flexed in a sketchy way. In terms of size, it is compact enough that I can tuck it behind a seat in my van, or park it in the corner of a small room without it taking over the whole space. It is still heavy. It is around 34 pounds, and you feel that when you lift it. For me, it is manageable with one hand on the handle, but I would not call it effortless, especially if you are stepping up into a vehicle or moving it a long distance. Setup is pretty straightforward, but you do need to take it seriously if you want it to work well. You are dealing with vent hoses, and where you put those hoses matters. In my van, I routed the hoses out a window opening, and the better I sealed the gaps, the better the cooling felt. In a small room, I used a window opening and made sure the hose connections were snug. The unit is not hard to get running, but the quality of your setup changes the results more than I expected. If you leave a bunch of hot air leaking back in, it will feel like the unit is struggling when the real issue is the space leaking. Once it is set up, daily use is easy. There is a color screen on the unit, and I used that at first just to get familiar with the modes. After the first day, I mostly used the phone app. The app control ended up being more useful than I thought it would be, because with a portable unit, I am not always standing next to it. I could be outside the van, or across the room, or in bed. Being able to change modes, adjust temperature, and set a timer without getting up is the kind of thing you start using without thinking about it. One example where that mattered was coming back to my van after it had been sitting in the sun. If you have been in that situation, you know the air inside can feel brutal. I turned the unit on before I got back, and by the time I opened the door, it was noticeably more tolerable. It did not turn the van into an icebox instantly, but it knocked the edge off fast enough that I was not dreading getting inside. In a small office space, around 120 square feet, it kept up without feeling like it was running constantly. The room felt stable, like it could maintain comfort once it got there. Cooling performance is strongest when the space is small and reasonably sealed. In the van with decent insulation and the opening sealed, it brought the temperature down quickly. In the office, it felt consistent. When I tried it in a garage with the doors open, it was a different story. It was moving air and you could feel some cool output, but the space was basically fighting it nonstop. That is not me blaming the unit, that is just reality. This kind of portable system is for small spaces, not big open areas. Heating was better than I expected for something this size. I used it on a chilly morning where I just wanted the space to feel comfortable while I got ready. The air coming out of the vent got hot quickly, and it felt good directed toward where I was sitting. It is not the kind of heat that is going to turn a whole house warm, but in a van or a small room, it gave me quick relief without having to run a larger heater. I also noticed it is the kind of heat you want to aim. If you let it blow into open space, it still works, but you get more comfort if you let that warm airflow reach you. The dehumidifier mode ended up being more useful than I expected. I tried it after a rainy night when the air felt damp and kind of heavy. It did not magically make everything dry in minutes, but it helped the space feel less sticky. The draining part is not complicated. You use the drainage tube and plan where that moisture is going to go. If you are the type of person who hates dealing with water tanks and emptying them, you will still have to deal with moisture management in some form. For me, the tube was fine, but you do need to think about it before you turn it on and walk away. Noise is always a big question, especially if you plan to sleep near it. In sleep mode, it was quiet enough that I could fall asleep next to it. It is not silent, but it was more like a steady background sound. When I ran it harder, it got noticeably louder, closer to a box fan on high. That was still acceptable for daytime use, but at night I preferred the quieter setting. If you are sensitive to sound, you will probably use sleep mode most of the time when you are trying to rest. I also like the little light under the vent that changes color depending on what it is doing. That sounds like a small thing, but in a dark van or a dim room, it is helpful to glance over and know if it is cooling or heating without walking up to the display. One feature I tested because it sounded useful was the mode meant to help with pets by turning on if the temperature rises too much. I want to be careful here. I do not treat that as permission to leave an animal in a parked car in the heat. It is more like a backup plan if you are nearby and something changes. I tried it to see if it would respond the way I expected, and it did, but I would not bet an animal's safety on any single device. The cordless part is a big deal if you actually live or travel off-grid. With the add-on battery connected, I was able to run it for hours without plugging into the wall. How long it lasts depends heavily on how hard you run it. If you run maximum cooling or strong heat nonstop, battery life drops faster than you might hope. If you use a more moderate setting and let it cycle, it stretches much further. Switching between wall power and battery power felt smooth in my use. Charging was also fast enough that I could top it up without it becoming an all-day project. I tested charging at home, and I also like that you can charge in a vehicle or with solar panels if that is your setup. After a week, my overall take is that it does what I wanted as long as I stay realistic about the use case. It works best in small, enclosed spaces like a van, a camper, a tent setup with good airflow planning, or a small room. It is easy to operate, and the app makes it more convenient day to day. The build feels sturdy enough for being moved around, and the handle design actually matters when you are picking it up often. The limitations are also real. It is heavy enough that some people will not want to move it frequently. It is not meant to control temperature in big open spaces. The battery is helpful, but if you expect to blast heating or cooling all night at full power, you will want to plan for charging or extra capacity. And like any portable air conditioner, your hose setup and sealing effort can make or break the experience. If your situation matches what this is good at, meaning a small space you actually spend time in and you want practical cooling, heating, or dehumidifying that you can move around, it has been a solid tool for me this week. It has made my van more livable, kept my office comfortable, and handled damp air better than I expected. I will post full information about the ECOFLOW WAVE 3 portable air conditioner in the comments section. See you in the following videos.